Impact the hoof health by looking through a magnifying glass. That's what so we know a lot of things, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to split sessions up with the different lesions. So one of the things here is when we find lesions, we have now a way to grade digital dermatitis, okay? And then foot rot, and then over there when we record the clawhorn lesions, what we try to do is we try to come up with a simple system that works all over the world. Okay, because I travel around the world, and the problem is if I go to South America, they call this and they call this that. And by having a picture and say, well, this is always a sole ulcer, okay? So that unifies the information. And when we get the information, this is the Moogle AccuTrim program, cloud app. We do it right at shoot side. We enter the information. You can see here 3200. She was done 24th, and now next time I bring her up, there's probably a problem. She probably had a problem there. So if I would click on that, it tells me exactly what the cow had. Okay, and that's also for follow-up things. Eventually, this goes in the analysis, and you can see here now, this is by every time I was there. The orange is the trims, the yellow is the rechecks, and the blues are the lames. So if they come in lame, or if they graded lame, they go in as lames. If they go in as trims and they have a lesion, they go in as trims, and that we separate that out in the evaluation afterwards. And then you can go with this Moogle program. You can go and look at it, and afterwards by days in milk. Okay, and you can see here we have this is a 2-year, December 19 to September. So we got over 2 years. Usually we just do a year, but it looks like there is a lot, right? But here are all the mid-lactation trims done. And the other thing, when you look at it here, as an example, there's a few more here. And we have a specific problem at this farm. So because they get rechecked before they go into peak production, between 30 and 45 days, those cows come in to shoot, okay? And then again, when we dry them off, here again, digital dermatitis. And for me with the digital dermatitis, when I record them, I record everything. So all the 5 stages, that's why it looks so. When I look at the acute ones, it's like 3 or 4 cows. But the chronic ones that we brought in years ago are still there. And then here you see when you take the digital dermatitis out, it's not that many. It's about 50, 55, 60 cows that have those rotated claws. So we're going to talk a little bit about resolving white line lesions. And the interesting thing that we all need to remember is if an animal has no white line lesion in the first lactation, okay, in the second lactation she has 6. The chances that there's 6. Double in the third. Okay, if she has a lesion in the first lactation, 20 cows will have, 20 of those cows, 20% will have lesions in the next lactation. And then it kind of stays out. But part of this is because the animals leave the herd, okay? And then the same thing, you go to second lactation all the way down. So really good research that was done, and this is a typical white line lesion. Right there, that the cursor won't work on it. So problem list. So when I look at white line lesions, my problem list is trauma, slipping, rough and uneven floor, stockmanship, cow handling, perching in the stall, heat stress, and hoof trimming. I'm going to visit some of those now as we go along. So, unstable floor. When you look at here, if it's not comfortable for us to walk on, why would it be good for the cow? People always think the more aggressive it looks, right, the better it is for the cow, but we've learned different, and a lot of these floors are still being done around the world, and then, so when you have this, you don't have a stable floor, there's a lot of trauma to the side of the foot, and that's what eventually causes the white line lesions. And then we have slippery floor, like old floors over here, floors here, or just improper grooving. A lot of this was done years ago, a lot of this grooving, and today it's detrimental to problems. And we know how to fix this today, but now we do the better floors, and I show that at the end. Or this type of stuff. You know, all of us probably walked on a cobblestone floor in an old city, right? And that's exactly what that is. So then the next thing is, like, when I see more cows perching in the stalls, that means all the weight comes to the back of the heel, and that again is a higher risk factor. So in the summertime, we'll show the graph afterwards. That's why I see things go up, or on farms where we don't have good laying down time. So when it comes to VES-Artex, we all know this is like inches, right, Peter? You know, it's inches with, so the cows like it, they lay down. And like here as well, you know. Again, we ended up, this is a dry cow facility, a lot of lame cows when they came to calving, just because, especially in the fall, coming out of the summer, because standing there too long, you know, not laying down because the stalls weren't comfortable. And then the next thing is here is when we run the crowd gate. And we all know when it's hot, we run the crowd gate harder, right? Because the cows don't unload the parlor. And if you watch it now, okay, see this cow here, how she goes, how she slips out, okay? And if you go on this side, see how she's got to fight it? And every time she has to do that, it traumatizes the side of the foot. And eventually that adds into, results in inflammation, and down the road in a lame cow. And here, the other thing, the same thing here. Look at all the heads up, right, on this one, on that side. Because we're just crowding them. Even though the front ones won't go, we're still crowding the back ones. And we all know that's harder when it's hot. And then when we, no grazes around here, but on grazing farms, the further they walk, the more repetitive motion there is. Or walking steep slopes is another one. Anytime they walk steep slopes, they brace themselves like that, there's more trauma on the outside of that foot. So, this was some work done by a friend of mine in Japan with Dairy Comp, okay? They took 30 farms, 4,000 cows on DC305, and you can see over a 2-year period what happened to the white lines, right? Okay, this is the temperature, right? As the temperature increased, see there's a slight delay, everything is slightly delayed, and we know that from Nigel Cook's work, you have about a 2 months delay of the problems, okay? Very good. So, effects of heat stress, the number of white line lesions increase. Here is another example. Here we were at 100, this is over a 2-year period, 110% stocking. Here we were at 130% stocking. Pretty easy to see, Mark, right? The difference. I mean, there's a lot more, you know, same number of cows in, more cows in there, more heat. So when they come in the parlor, it's more hot. You know, and we know what the heat high producing cows produce. And if we pack them in the parlor, and you see it more with larger herds, then you see it with smaller herds, you know. If you're putting 200 cows in the holding pen that produce 6,000 BTUs per hour, or you put 600 in there, it's a big difference at the end. So, key performance indicator for white line lesions for me, the goal is to be below 4%. And it's achievable. It takes some work. We have to work on the floors, you know. And then these are some of the other ones. What do we want to see? Lesions in the first 60 days in milk, trim event, the first 6 events in milk. So the cow shouldn't really go into the chute in the first, for me, in the first 100 days, unless there's an issue, okay? And then lesions all day. So, how do we fix the white line lesion prevention? We build good floors. Okay, here the cows can't slip. Okay, and you can see it in video afterwards. You actually see it on the 2 pictures as I see when she walks like this, how that groove stops her. Same thing over there. It's and what you see here now in the video, okay, you watch this video here and you see how those cows are moving on a good floor. They're almost too overconfident for me in some cases, you know. But when we look at the leg injuries and all of that, just is not. But now if you guys watch closer in the close-up shots, the tremendous amount of force that goes down when those cows run. But if we start with the right floors, we go a long ways in doing that, and then this type of cow comfort. Peter, I'm sure you guys installed those, right? You know where that is, right? Huh? Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, so with that, you know, that's kind of all. The 20 minutes are up. So if there's questions, I gladly answer them, or I'll be around here for discussion. You know. So we need this, and we need good floors. And when we see it in those places, we can definitely see afterwards when you look at the data for white line lesion. I mean, sand always helps because sand provides traction, right?
So are you recommending a groove concrete over a rubber?
The rubber for me is when I have too much wear, okay? Or in corners, because the problem with rubber has some problems, okay? And there's a couple of issues here. Sometimes the rubber can get slippery, especially when you get those days where it's kind of like the fall, like we have right now.
Concrete can too when you have scrapers going.
Yeah, with the scrape. Oh, I agree with you. I agree with you. You know, so, but the thing there is, if there's enough water coming, it helps. You know, and the thing is, like at this facility, we have rubber going to the parlor on this one over here. For me, when wear becomes a problem, I use rubber, okay? But the thing is, on the long run, what I'm seeing too as an example when it comes to digital dermatitis, I always see more digital dermatitis in places where we have a lot of rubber. Because I think it's, the bacteria have a place in the rubber probably to hide or multiply. Everywhere I go, I know a couple of farms in Michigan where they pulled the rubber out and digital dermatitis went down like that. I'm not saying there's not a place for it, but the other thing we've learned is if the beds are not 100%, they stand longer. You know, everybody says it's comfortable to stand. Well, we don't want them to stand. We want them to lay down, you know. Like this facility doesn't have any rubber inside of the barn. And we're doing, this is a 3,500 cows or 3,500 cows, and we don't have, where is right at, we don't do a lot of trimming, but we keep ahead of it, you know. Now if I had really coarse sand, maybe I'd have to put more in. Then maybe I put a strip in behind so they can walk all the way to the end of the barn, you know. Yeah, like a traffic lane, you know, something like that. But the hardest thing is sometimes to manage it. Keep it down, keep the shit out on the, like one of the farms said a lot of it in, what's that, is it what's that bacteria, protozoa? Have you heard, Mark? Protica. Awful bug. And nobody knows where all of a sudden it shows up at this farm about once a year. But they had a lot of rubber in the holding pen and, you know, I'm not sure if that's what the problem is. Nobody really knows, so. Good?
Karl, can you go back to that slide with the temperatures?
Yeah? Oh, here, we'll get it. So the high temperature, see? Yeah. The low temperature. So that would be morning temperature, day temperature. And what you see is here, you know, and I can see it. I can see it on every farm around the world.
I missed the top part.
Yeah.
30 farms.
Yeah,
So
30. Yeah, it's a pretty good sample.
Yeah.
You know, that's a really good sample. But you know, like I can take this out to farms in Minnesota, in Iowa, in Texas, and I'm getting exactly the same graph. Like, we don't hardly have anything, you know. I think what I'm seeing now is on the farms where we really have the good cooling, you know, or I mean, Moxie's there.
Right. Never an issue.
I mean, on 7,000 cows, like 50 white lines a year,
Yeah.
and most of them were from the dry cow barn, you know. So, and that's why I like this. It really shows, you know, even with the soil ulcers are very similar in this study as well. So it's the sampling, and I mean, yeah, it was just a broad, a lot of cows and a lot of different things. So, good. Any other questions? Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Yep.